I remember the exact moment everything changed. 1 second, I was in my small, cluttered apartment, headphones on, scrolling through late-night videos. The next, I was standing somewhere completely unrecognizable. The walls weren't mine. The floor had this polished, almost too perfect sheen, reflecting the soft glow of lights that weren't flickering like the ones back home. And the air. It had this faint perfume of roses and something metallic, like stepping into a dream that was both beautiful and slightly dangerous. At first, I thought I was dreaming, maybe even hallucinating. My reflection in the mirrored wall across the room caught me off guard. I blinked. Twice. Then 3 times. The person staring back at me wasn't who I expected. My features were softer, my body, different. Smaller, curvier, impossibly delicate. My hands, slender, with nails painted in a pale pink hue, felt alien as they fumbled through my hair. And that hair, long, silky, cascading down my shoulders, it wasn't mine. My own short, unruly strands had been replaced with something that belonged to someone else entirely. I froze, my mind racing. What the hell? I whispered, my voice higher, sweeter, fragile. I had never sounded like that. Never. Panic bubbled up like a spring threatening to break. My pulse thundered in my ears as I took cautious steps, the heels I didn't remember putting on clicking against the immaculate floor. Then the first wave of curiosity hit me. I didn't just want to run, I wanted to explore. Who had I become? How had this happened? My apartment, or whatever this place was filled with clothing racks, mirrors, and accessories that felt almost designed for me, yet not me at all. Dresses of silk and lace, shoes that could make anyone feel powerful or exposed, makeup that promised transformation with a few strokes of a brush. I wanted to scream, but instead, I found myself reaching out, touching the fabrics, the textures, the glint of jewelry as if I could understand this world by feeling it. And then, almost as if teasing me, a whisper echoed in my mind, "Play along, and you might survive." Survival? What did that mean? Every instinct screamed that I was in a place where normal rules didn't apply, a world that wasn't mine, and yet, in some twisted, terrifying way, it felt like it was waiting for me. I spent hours, no, minutes that felt like hours, staring at myself in mirrors, experimenting with expressions I didn't know I could make. The person I saw was both frightening and intoxicating. I laughed nervously at the reflection, the sound foreign but undeniably me. It was a cruel, beautiful joke, or a warning. And in that moment, I realized, this wasn't just a change in appearance. This was an entry into an entirely new life. A life that I hadn't chosen, a body that wasn't mine, and a world that was waiting to test every ounce of who I thought I was. I had crossed a line, and there was no turning back, not yet. Mornings had become a test of courage I never imagined I'd face. Every glance in the mirror reminded me that nothing was the same. The person staring back at me was beautiful. No, stunning, but that beauty came with an unbearable weight. My old routines felt alien. Brushing my teeth, making coffee, even opening emails, all seemed like acts of someone else's life. Leaving the apartment for the first time was worse. The streets seemed narrower, the city louder. And everyone, I swear everyone, looked at me differently. Men's eyes lingered a fraction too long, whispers followed me down corners, and women's glances ranged from curiosity to thinly veiled judgment. I felt exposed in ways I hadn't known existed, my body suddenly a conversation I couldn't control. At work, the real nightmare began. My colleagues didn't recognize me at first, or if they did, they masked their shock poorly. "You look different today," one said, awkwardly trying to smile. Another muttered something under her breath, a mix of disbelief and pity. And the emails, oh, the emails. Messages I wrote now seemed wrong. My typing, my tone, everything carried an invisible, alien femininity that made my own words feel foreign. I tried to assert myself, to behave as I always had. But every gesture, every inflection, betrayed me. When I raised my hand in a meeting, my slender fingers seemed too delicate for authority. When I spoke, my voice, so unlike my own, drew attention I neither wanted nor knew how to handle. I stumbled through conversations, flinched at the slightest smile or frown, and the laughter of co-workers, once comforting, now felt like it belonged to a world I had no right to enter. Even home didn't feel safe anymore. My phone buzzed with messages from friends, casual invitations, jokes we used to share. But when I tried to respond, words tangled in my throat. Could I still be myself with them? Or would they see only this version of me? Fear and embarrassment tangled in my chest, tight and suffocating. And yet, beneath the anxiety, a strange thrill began to coil. Each awkward stare, each hesitant compliment, each whispered remark forced me to look closer at myself. I noticed the way my hair caught the light, the curve of my cheekbones, the way clothes draped over my body differently than before. I was living in someone else's skin, but the skin was undeniably mine now. Evenings were the hardest. Returning to my apartment, I would collapse onto the couch, exhausted. My reflection no longer startled me in the mirror, it judged me silently, reminding me of the delicate balance I had to maintain between fear and fascination. I started keeping a journal, detailing every incident, every emotion. The pages filled with frustration, shame, but also tiny sparks of curiosity. Because in this chaos, I realized something terrifying. Maybe I could learn to navigate this world. Maybe I could discover power in the vulnerability. And maybe, just maybe, this forced transformation wasn't entirely cruel. But the question lingered, heavy and insistent. Was I ready to explore it? Or would the world's gaze break me first? The first night I truly embraced this new life, I locked the apartment door behind me and sank to the floor, staring at the sea of clothes and accessories that seemed to have been waiting just for me. I felt like an intruder in my own body. Yet, the thrill of curiosity was irresistible. My fingers trembled as I picked up a delicate blouse, the fabric soft and almost whispering promises I couldn't yet name. Standing in front of the full-length mirror, I experimented cautiously. I twisted my hair this way, tucked it that way, and watched how it framed my face. Makeup became an intricate game of shadows and highlights, something I had never cared about before. Each brushstroke transformed my reflection slightly, then more, until the stranger staring back at me seemed alive, vibrant, almost defiantly confident. I tried different expressions, testing the curve of a smile, the tilt of a brow, the subtle arch of lashes. Each little discovery sent a shiver through me. Clothes were another revelation. I had always preferred comfort, loose tees, baggy jeans. Now, every skirt, every dress, every fitted top demanded attention and presence. I slipped into a silky dress for the first time, the sensation electric against my skin. I twirled, feeling the fabric swirl around my legs, and for a fleeting moment, I forgot everything else. The fear, the embarrassment, the impossible shock of my new reality. In that private sanctuary, I was free to explore, to play, to be whoever I wanted, or whoever this world demanded. Voices fascinated me, too. I spent hours whispering into the mirror, mimicking the cadence and softness I heard others use around me. At first, my own voice sounded alien, high and trembling. But gradually, I could coax it into subtler tones, softer inflections, a voice that carried curiosity, charm, and sometimes, authority. It was exhausting and exhilarating. Each successful attempt made me feel more alive, more present, more real. And yet, the experience was not without its pangs of fear. Every time I perfected a look or a gesture, I remembered the outside world waiting for me. The eyes, the judgments, the potential ridicule. But in these secret moments, I began to see the edges of possibility. I could be seen. I could be admired. I could be feared, or desired. The power was intoxicating. The nights blurred into one another. I experimented with different personas. The confident woman walking through an imagined crowd, the playful flirt in a make-believe cafe, the contemplative thinker at a mirrored vanity. Each persona revealed something about me, about who I might become if I allowed myself to explore fully. My fingers traced the curves of my new body, learning its weight, its balance, the subtle sway of hips, the pressure of heels. Every movement taught me lessons my old self would never have known. By the end of those nights, exhaustion mingled with exhilaration. I was learning not just how to survive in this new skin, but how to thrive, how to carve space for myself in a world that hadn't asked me to enter. And deep down, I knew the secret experiments were only the beginning. Outside awaited challenges I had yet to imagine, but now, for the first time, I felt a flicker of daring, maybe even excitement. The first time I stepped outside fully dressed in my new identity, I felt my heart hammering like a drum. The streets were alive with people, unaware of the internal battle I was fighting. Every passerby's glance felt magnified, every whisper amplified. My heels clicked against the pavement, a steady reminder that I was being watched, and that I couldn't retreat now. At first, I stumbled. A misstep in the heels sent a pang of embarrassment through me, but then I corrected it, breathing deeply, trying to own the space I occupied. Each cautious step brought a little thrill, a little taste of freedom. I began noticing how people reacted, not just looking, but feeling me differently. A smile from a stranger sparked a flutter of confidence. A compliment, subtle or overt, sent warmth through my chest I hadn't expected. I experimented with voice and gesture, testing boundaries in casual interactions. Ordering coffee, I modulated my tone to be gentle yet assured. I smiled softly at the barista, letting my eyes meet hers just long enough to feel connection without fear. And then, she smiled back genuinely. That small exchange, ordinary to anyone else, felt revolutionary. I realized that for the first time, I could interact with the world as this new version of myself, not hiding, not apologizing. Social outings became arenas for experimentation. I attended a small gathering of friends under the guise of a casual meetup. Their reactions were mixed, some puzzled, some curious, but I held my ground, discovering nuances of presence I hadn't known existed. My laughter carried differently, lighter yet sincere. My gestures, once awkward, began to feel natural. I felt the subtle power of self-presentation, the way confidence could shift perception, the way a tilt of the head or a sway of the hips could communicate more than words ever could. Yet, every success was tempered with anxiety. Every compliment reminded me of the fragility of this world I had entered. Could I maintain it? Would I be rejected if anyone discovered the truth? The tension was constant, a companion that both frightened and exhilarated me. But in this balance, I began to learn something essential. Authenticity wasn't about hiding fear. It was about embracing it, about daring to step forward even when the world seemed uncertain. Weekends became my laboratory. Public spaces, cafes, parks, small boutiques, turned into stages for testing my new identity. I experimented with different outfits, different personas, and gradually, patterns emerged. Certain styles amplified confidence, certain gestures drew attention in empowering ways. I realized that transformation wasn't just skin deep. It was a dialogue between body, mind, and world. By the end of these experiences, a subtle shift had occurred. I no longer felt like an intruder in my own life. I had discovered a rhythm, a way to inhabit this new self fully, to navigate the world with cautious courage. Each small victory, every successful conversation, every unnoticed stumble, every genuine smile exchanged, was a building block. And though fear and uncertainty never completely vanished, they became companions rather than chains, reminders that growth always demanded courage. In those moments, I understood, this wasn't just survival. This was transformation. This was learning to step into a world that wasn't mine, and making it mine anyway, one careful, daring step at a time.